5-minute penalty to Chicago, a game misconduct, and then Manson having words with Steven. And now Butcher gets into it. We're going to have a brawl, folks. Stand by.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Tyler Cash here, and it is another episode of Fourth Line Goon Hockey Podcast, Playoff Edition. Just got off work, enjoying a nice tall glass of whatever the fuck I want it to be. At this point, it's just water, but in a few hours, it'll be some beer, I'm sure. How you doing, bud?
Good. You look, I think, like prototypical jock right now, which is hilarious.
Yeah, dude, I just got off work. I'm sweaty. I'm tired. It's almost 100 degrees here in the desert already. I'm actually going to see what is it? LFO, O-Town, Ryan Cabrera, and Sugar Ray performing tonight in Henderson.
Okay.
So I'm gonna turn up white boy suburban style. That's for sure. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I don't know. It's at a spot in Henderson at their casino, which is like stupid nice. I don't know if you've ever been out that part of Vegas or not, but no, it's really nice.
Just Summerlin a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, like it's like Summerlin, but fancy. They call it like Hendertucky because it's got this like Midwest vibe to it too. I don't know, but it's poolside. The drinks are going to be flowing. The 90s pop hits are going to be sang. It's going to be a good time. But we're going to chat some playoff hockey. Obviously, not a lot of news has happened other than that unfortunate incident that went down at the Bruins-Carolina game, in which the off-ice official had a piece of plexiglass fall on his head. He was rushed to the hospital on a stretcher, but it seems like he's going to be okay. The team announced today that he's resting at home, and they hope that he'll be able to join the broadcast later in the series. So that's good to see and good to hear. It looked brutal. He's an elderly guy, and I guess what exactly happened? I didn't even really watch the clip.
Yeah, I mean, just like I don't know the context around the moment really, but like Bruins fans were yelling, cheering, banging on the glass all over, including the glass behind the penalty box. And then I'm assuming it probably wasn't put in correctly or fully or the right way. And so it just kind of came unhinged and just basically fell on top of the guy. Like it looked like he saw it or like heard it coming and then like kind of braced himself a little bit. So it looks like maybe like his head didn't take the full brunt for what it's worth. But still, I mean, 20, 30 pounds of glass basically falling on your head probably. I think it also looked maybe a little bit worse taking him out, like had him like a neck brace and stuff. Like it was probably just more precautionary more than anything, but obviously sounds sounds good that that sounds good. It is good that he seems to be in decent shape, hopefully returns. But yeah, scary stuff you don't really ever see.
Yeah, the plexiglass panel fell on top of I guess his name's Foley. His last name is Foley. Moments after the Bruins took a 3-1 lead over Carolina Hurricanes in the second period of Game 3, that brought some life to the Bruins. Not the plexiglass falling on the old man's head, but a win. So it's 2-1, going back to Boston, correct, for Game 4?
Still in Boston, yeah.
Still in Boston, yeah. So they're not dead yet. They seem to have a lot more offense going. Taylor Hall looked amazing. He was connecting on that line, that second line with Eric Halla. It seemed to be a lot of what we were seeing down the stretch from the Bruins. So that's exciting that it's not a clean sweep in favor of the Hurricanes. Also for your and I picks that we had for both our bracket and just our overall predictions for the Stanley Cup. So yeah, I feel like that's a good leeway. So far there's been a bit of upsets. Obviously, there's still plenty of hockey to go here, but I believe the percentage is something along the lines of 85 percentile, maybe a little bit higher up from that, goes to the winner of Game 1 of a 7-game series. Like they go on to win the 7-game series 85% of the time, which is interesting because let's talk a little bit about your Blues, right? The St. Louis Blues. They come out hot. I believe what was that, a 4-0 first game that they had over the Minnesota Wild. And now they've scored 3 goals over the last 2.
Yep.
Something in that ballpark. I mean, are you at all nervous? What's going on with them?
I mean, yeah, I think it simply comes down to how healthy is defense. I mean, you look at basically the first game where basically Letty got pounded, sort of numbers to the glass, head to the glass, probably concussed if I'm speculating. Missed game 2, missed game 3, and then you combine that with like the whole game 2 situation of just like the momentum shift of like going to make a routine pass by Bortuzzo, and literally his stick just shatters and it just goes right to the wild guy, easy like goal. And it's like stuff like that. It's like, how do you write that stuff up? Or even like game 3, like Kaprizov on a break up 1-0, completely doesn't even get a shot off and just kind of throws it back towards the front of that, hits Husso's skate and goes in. It's like, cool. There goes any momentum, even after being down 1-0, 30 seconds in. I think it ultimately comes down to, doesn't matter who's in net, doesn't matter who's in or out for forwards, even though no one on the forward front is hurt at this point, but it's more so who's healthy on D. Because if you have 3 of your top 6 D men out for a series, odds are you're losing. And
Krug took an injury last game, right? Never came back.
Krug's out long term. Letty and Bortuzzo did skate briefly today, so TBD on their front. But then it's like you have guys like Callie Rosen and Steven Santini. And like, I don't think Santini even played a game for this year. Rosen played like 3 down the stretch. Like, you can't replace those guys. And it's like Perunovic, who, again, the AHL god of assists, like halfway through the year after playing like 20 games, it felt like, even though he came up to the NHL. He had wrist surgery this year. He's been skating. He's a possibility. So I like him, I think, more than the other options personally. But again, that's kind of what it comes down to, is like everyone's kind of like, oh, let's look at the offense and how they're not scoring. And it's like, well, yeah, when you have half your D guys, especially ones that are playing like top line minutes and haven't, and like Scandella not being healthy, and I think he played like barely 15 minutes while we had 5 D men last game. These guys can't transition out of the zone as quick as you need to. And then like thinking in the back of their head, oh shit, this guy's barreling down on me, let me panic. And then you don't get clean transition out of the zone. And then the chances that you do, it's just like kind of bad puck luck where the puck's just a couple inches out of reach, you get a bad bounce or whatever the case may be. So it's like, overall, I feel like they're not playing bad. It's just how healthy are you going to be able to be to overcome the situation you're in, I feel like.
Yeah, they're already beaten up, which is crazy. We're only 3 games into the playoffs, and they seem to be one of the healthier bunches going into the postseason. Then, you take out a lot of the defense part of your team that you prioritized at trade deadline. And I know that Letty's going to tough it out, but I mean, is he going to come back and even be 60%, 70%? I mean, you don't know. Bortuzzo coming back is going to be huge. Next game, that's going to tell a lot about the series, right? I don't see the Blues bouncing back from a 3-1 deficit. That's just, it's too much in one way favor of the Minnesota Wild. And I hate to say it because I'm not a big fan of the guy personally, but Kaprizov finally found his postseason game. I believe he's at 5 points here in 3 games, including 4 goals. And that's a guy you don't want to get started. That's for sure. I mean, he's I would say makes up more than half of their firepower up front. And, when he's one of those guys that gets started, he can also amp up the rest of the dudes, right? Like, and I think Greenway might have even gotten one of those early goals in the game last night. So, you hate to see it because we expected so much more out of this Blues team. I know Wayne Gretzky himself had them going all the way to the final against the Hurricanes. As you pointed out, he didn't pick a winner, though. But yep. I was with you, man. I was with you from the very beginning. I thought the Blues looked very dangerous, and I'd hate to see the Wild advance, especially with Fleury and net. As much as I love the guy, I thought there was a little shining glimmer there that first game was kind of what we would see out of him for the remainder of the series, and obviously he came out and he's been lights out as well.
And see, that's the thing, though. Like, I don't think he's been that lights out. Like, he's given up rebounds left and right. Just nobody there to cash in. Like, he's not cleanly saving anything, I feel like. Outside of, like, I need a pretty nice glove save on Shen in the slot. Like, he's just letting up rebounds. That's how the Blues scored 4 goals. I think 3 of the 4 all prawns in game 1 were all rebound goals. Like, he's just not handling the puck well when it shot at him, I feel like. You got to get to the net to be able to make that happen, and it's just not happening right now. So
talking about goalies, though, as you said, you don't really think that the goaltending has been the main issue for the series so far against the Minnesota Wild when it comes to Husso being in net over Jordan Binnington. But it seemed as of a lot of these tweets that I was reading today, all signs are pointing towards Jordan Binnington starting tomorrow. Do you see that happening? Do you see that being a spark? I mean, I know a lot of fans out there are hoping that you kind of have an angry Binnington to get out there and maybe rile up the team, or do you think this sets them back?
I mean, again, I don't think it matters. I think if anything, you got another guy on your team who can basically just try and piss off the other team, or at least light a fire under your own team in terms of, slashing a guy for no reason or just getting in a player's face, like as a goalie. Like, you just don't see that anywhere else. And I mean, again, I don't think it's going to make a difference on the goaltending front. I think you're going to find out either tomorrow if the Blues have a chance in this series by simply, can they transition out of their zone or can they not? And that's what it's going to come down to. I don't care what forwards you have. I don't care if Draisaitl and McDavid were on this team with Tarasenko on one line. Like, you're not scoring if you're not transitioning out of your zone. It's just not happening. So
what happens? What happens if they squeak by? Like, say, Binnington is in net and they wind up winning 5-4. The next game, are you going to go back to Husso? You realize it's not a goaltending issue, or is it his net until he loses? I mean, how is that going to work in the playoffs?
I mean, personally, I think that's how you have to play it. I mean, you're net till you lose, I feel like, at that point. But at the same time, like, I mean, again, not that it matters and not something to really harp on, but it's like, these last two games down 3 goals with like 6-7 minutes left, you get an offensive zone face-off. Before you have possession, before the face-off even starts, you're already pulling the goalie, and both times Wild win the face-off, cleanly score on the empty net. Just some questionability there on like the empty net philosophy there. Like, you have 7+ minutes, you're down multiple goals. Why not just wait till you have the puck? Right. Why are you like waiting till it's a 50-50 face-off to get the puck and then boom, it's in the back of your net? Well, there goes any chance of that happening. So, and like the Blues have been a good like empty net team, mind you, too. I think they might have led the league or top 2 or 3 in the league in terms of empty net goals this season. But it's just like, something that I just didn't understand a whole lot. I'm sure there's some sort of analytic behind it that Berby's probably following, but I'm fine with pulling the goal that early. Just have the fucking puck on your stick. Like, that's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, have possession. I'm also a fan of pulling the goalie early and having that aggressive stance as far as coaching goes. But I'm with you on that. In both those situations, I think the Minnesota Wild scored with like 7 minutes, like on the clock still left over, and it just looks like it's a dominant game in one direction. Which we know in theory, you take away some of those lucky bounces and some of that puck luck, and you're a lot closer. But at the end of the day, these players do look at the score sheet, like they do remember that game they got blown out 5-2, 7-2. Like, as people say, a win's a win, but honestly, these players do think of this. It is demoralizing when it comes to not being able to find the back of the net and these scores that look a lot worse than they really are. Which, by the way, one of these teams, I can't think of what it was. Is it the Edmonton Oilers left the score from the previous game on the Jumbotron while the team was practicing? I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, so I can't remember what it is. If you guys, I'm sure someone's out there like, oh, they know who it is. But a team left the score of the previous game on the Jumbotron while the other team was at their arena practicing, which I just thought was savage. And, that does, stick with people. It really does, especially, they say that it's playoff time and pressure doesn't get to these guys, but it does.
Hey now, what's up, goons? Tyler Cash here, and it's time to pause the podcast and chat a bit about our amazing sponsors over at Schlafly Brewing Company. Hockey and beer. Does it get any better? I don't think so. Schlafly has been brewing up some of the best beer I've ever had for many years, and it's officially that time of year for their famous Raspberry Hefeweizen. It's one of my personal favorites. Their Raspberry Hefeweizen distinguishes itself among others in that it's a true fruit beer. None of this fruit-flavored crap. It uses real raspberry in the brewing process. Once the fruit sugar ferments out, the aroma and flavor stay in, making this a delightful drinkable beer that's not too sweet or tart. It's refreshing and balanced with a natural hazy pink coloring. Because it's low in alcohol, it brings out a smooth dose of weediness, and it's perfect for summer. It's perfect for any time. Download the Schlafly app or visit schlafly.com to locate and devour yours today. That's SCHLAFLY.com. Schlafly Beer. Drink Mo Beer. This podcast is brought to you by 1 in a Million Handyman Services Incorporated. 1 in a Million is a family-run local company that's been serving the Las Vegas, Nevada area for over 15 years. They are licensed and insured throughout Clark County and travel as far as Boulder City, Henderson, Las Vegas, and North Las Vegas. 1 in a Million specializes in smaller home repairs, but also tackles commercial repairs. They've worked around the Strip, residential homes, commercial buildings, you name it, 1 in a Million has made their mark. With a 4.5-star Yelp review and countless of happy customers throughout the 15 years, you can guarantee you'll be happy with their services. All previous customers can refer an unlimited amount of friends and family for a $25 referral credit, which would come off of any future projects and or repairs if they decide to use 1 in a Million. This offer also extends to the Fourth Line Goon listeners. Mention this podcast and you will receive a $25 referral credit that will come off of the total cost of your repairs. 1 in a Million is open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and you can find them on the web at juaninamill.com. That's JUANINAMILL.com, or you can also find them at juan.inamill on Instagram. 1 in a Million Handyman Services won't let you down. Check them out.
Yeah, true goalie madness. Honestly, like I'm actually thinking ahead of this might be the main topic of this episode, as well as the recap of round one. Is just goalie madness so far. UC Saros injured, hasn't played yet. They were hopeful he was going to come back in the series. Connor Ingram steps in. Boy, he has himself a hell of a game. Game 2 against the Colorado Avalanche. He stops, I think it was like 48 of 49 shots on net. It goes to overtime. They wind up losing. It's just such a brutal thing for him. But he's just playing incredible. Tristan Yari out, Casey DeSmith out. So then they had this guy, Louis Domingue. He's in. That guy played like 4 NHL games total prior to having to play. It's just crazy. This, I wanted to share this tweet, and I'm glad I was able to find it. It's from a Matt Murley 19 on Twitter. He said, "This is crazy. Here are the salaries of goalies starting games for this Stanley Cup playoffs so far. Billy Husso, $750K. Domingue, or however you say his name, $750K. Connor Ingram, $750K. Kochakov is $842. Jeremy Swayman, $925, and Jake Ottinger, $925. That's got to be some sort of record for rookie goalies in a playoff series in quite some time, wouldn't you say?
I would probably think so, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I just think it was ironic. I mean, obviously Saros didn't start that series with the Predators as an injury. But it was like game 1. Predators are like, all right, we got big save Dave in net. And then what happens? It's like 5-0, like half of the game, pulled, never sees the net again. Now it's Connor Ingram. And like, yeah, he's played fine. I mean, again, they lost 7-3 today. They're down 3-0. Like, Nashville's probably done in 4, if not 5, if they get lucky. Just not. I mean, I think anyone, regardless if it was Nashville or Dallas, we probably know who's winning that series anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild just seeing opportunities these goalies are getting, and really, they're kind of running with it for the most part, or showing like, hey, I kind of do belong here, to a degree. Look at these teams though. It's like, Husso down in the series, Domingue, tied, Ingram down 3-0, Kochakov is 2-1, Swayman's down, Ottinger's even. Like, these guys are simply doing what they're asked, I feel like, to the best of their ability, and they're not really to anyone's fault. So yeah, I mean, props to them. I mean, they're going to be up for a payday, I'm sure, when the time comes, especially Husso being a UFA. I don't know about the other ones off my head. Maybe Domingue is as well, but yeah, it's good to see some fresh blood for sure.
Just doing what they can to keep their teams afloat until the starters come back, which is going to be interesting, because if you're winning games, are you going to bring your starter back? I know Lowe said, yeah, absolutely you are. Like, I mean, you got to bring these guys back to have talent, but it's like, if you're winning games, you don't disrupt it either. It's a weird mentality when you're dealing with postseason hockey. I mean, if it was regular season, you just let them play it out. Like, okay, like, let's do the Jordan Binnington effect, right? He wins one, he wins another, he wins a third. You're just like, okay, well, shit, just see how long it can go.
Yeah,
But in the playoffs, you really can't put your entire all your eggs in one basket for, these guys is Connor Ingram or, in the Penguins case, it's not even DeSmith, it's Domingue. And I saw that Yari was practicing today, and they believe he has a broken foot, which is just nuts to think he's even skating already. He's probably doping himself up with a bunch of Bud Light and cocaine, probably just enough to get out there and stand on it. I don't know. It's just insane because it's one thing to break your foot as a player, right? Because they'll give you that shot to numb it. You'll keep your boot on through a game, but to get through a series and then to be a goalie that has to drop down and stretch out and stop pucks that are getting shot at you constantly, it's just madness. So, I mean, do you think we're going to see him? Or did he play? He didn't play today, right?
No, it's still doing. Yeah, I think there's no shot we see him round one. This is like the first time back on the ice since he's been injured. So I just think he's getting some reps in, see how it feels. He's got a long way to go. I don't see him coming in this series. I mean, maybe mid round 2 if they get there, but yeah, that's kind of my take.
Yeah, the Penguins are up 4-1 right now after the first, and that's crazy. They're getting that many by Shesterkin. You might be actually on something here. I know that was the one series that you and I both disagreed on with our postseason picks. It's not over. I still feel like there's a lot of hockey left. And Shesterkin, wow, it's so hard to say that, play out of his mind. What was that, game 1 where it went triple overtime? I have a feeling we're going to see a couple more overtime games between them in this series. I don't think that this is far from over, being 4-1 heading into the second. That's not really a proper evaluation of what each of these teams have to offer against each other in a series.
You also got to wonder if that triple overtime effect as well is going to take a toll on him later in the series as well. If they're going to get tired, Domingue came in and played maybe 40 minutes, you know what I mean? Versus basically 2 games with the hockey in one night. Like, there's that effect of it, Is he ever going to actually get a chance to recover, only getting like a day off, which what's going to be basically from here on out is just going to be a travel day. And basically just trying to get rested. So that'll be interesting dynamic to see. But yeah, like I said, I don't think he's gonna do well. And then again, I think that we're seeing right now the whole Pittsburgh bulletin board material where Shesterkin was waving him off the ice in Pittsburgh right before the playoffs. So I think he's getting a taste of what he had coming. That's, again, I don't think the Rangers make it out of round 1. So
I'm standing firm. I think I had Rangers in 6 or 7, and it's still very possible. Let's talk about the one we did agree on that so far we're wrong about. Carolina Hurricanes are up in the series 2-1 to Boston. How you feeling about that matchup so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think Boston, I don't think it was the entire reason, but I think going with Ullmark to start, I personally wasn't a fan of. But again, series isn't a series until a home team loses a game. That's how I always say it or see it. So Boston wins every game and Carolina wins every game. Carolina is supposed to win every game at home. So I still think this probably goes deep. I think we both had it going early, like Boston, like 5 or 6, but I still think this probably goes 7, honestly.
The next big upset, well, I would feel like this is the biggest upset so far of the postseason. I mean, it's not a full trifecta yet. Like, there's still plenty of hockey left. As we're talking to you guys, we're about halfway through the first round. Anything could really happen. But today, Washington Capitals 6, Florida Panthers 1, and now the Washington Capitals lead the series 2-1. I'm blown away because, I mean, Florida added players at trade deadline. They went with Sherratt. They went with Giroux. Now, Sherratt, I think, had, from what I'm seeing here, had a horrible game. I know people were ripping him apart on Twitter. I haven't really looked at the specifics there and how many of those times he was out there for the goals. But the crazy thing here is Bobrovsky, man, is he just not a playoff goalie, right? Like, he's never proven to be a $10.5 million goalie, as we've said before, considering he didn't do much in Columbus. He never made it out of the first round, or they made it out of the first round once. So I think that's the big thing, man. Their goaltending may not be built for the postseason, is my take.
That's the thing, though, is Florida's goaltending, in my opinion, was never built for the postseason. It was built to just fucking score your ass off. We haven't seen like an offense this lethal since like the 90s, in a regular season at least. And it's like they've scored 8 goals through 3 games. That's not even 3 goals a game on average. the Capitals, on the other hand, have scored 11 in 3 games, close to 4 goals a game. Yeah, so fun fact, before the pucks dropped for game 1, I was going back and forth with this series in my head, and I was like, you know what? Something just tells me Florida doesn't have it, and I swapped it. So I have Washington in 5, as crazy as it sounds.
Wow, that's crazy.
I last second, I was like, I just don't know. Something about me, they have everything you need on paper. I just don't see it playing out. And even to my surprise, even going that way, it's I'm very shocked how well the Capitals basically just manhandled, I felt like, the Panthers here in game 3. And I think if the Capitals win game 4, I think that series is done. Personally, they look very frustrated out there. They did not look like a team that was a President's Trophy winning team. So yeah, that's that.
It might be just a bad matchup for them, I mean,
like the Lightning last year. I mean, how many times can you make that excuse,
Right. I guess that makes sense. But I mean, we should also point out the Washington Capitals are doing this without Tom Wilson, who is going to miss the rest of the series due to a knee injury, which is just insane. Where I think we're going to see a lot of the pull enough power together to destroy the other team round 1, but then it's they're going to have to they're going to be dragging into round 2. It's just we might see a lot more blowouts, I feel like, round 2 than we will round 1, which makes for exciting hockey right out the gate. But yeah, my heart goes out to any Florida Panthers fans, all 8,000 of you out there. I feel bad, but yeah, bold strategy, and I don't. Yeah, that might alone give you enough of an edge there in our bracket challenge for sure. Yeah, I think we're both in agreement that the Predators aren't coming back from that. That was just a horrible matchup to begin with, even if they might steal a game. I think I had Colorado in 5 was my original prediction, so I could see it maybe happening. Who knows? If any sweep's going to happen, it's definitely Colorado. Yeah. That was my thoughts prior going into it. What is your take on the Flames and Stars? Do you think Stars are going to continue to play boring ass defense first Stars hockey, and we're going to see like a 2-1 win every night? Or do you think the Flames are finally going to ignite, if you will, pun intended?
That's how Stars have to win the series. How the Stars have to honestly win the playoffs if they're going to go far. That's all you're going to see is just, I think easily from a fan standpoint, most boring series of the playoffs so far. Granted, it's only 2 games in, but yeah, I think it's going to be boring. I think it's going to be tight checking, low scoring. That's kind of how I see it. Markstrom, I think, is too good to give up, 4 or 5 spot to the Stars, in my opinion. Ottinger is pretty solid on his own, but again, the Stars decor is pretty much held in check. I think the Flames have 1 goal in 2 games, which is insane. Granted, the Stars have 2 goals in 2 games, so it's not like it's that exciting, but yeah, Ottinger, like defensive hockey, that's the series for you to watch.
Yeah, and Ottinger is playing great too. So I mean, Markstrom was on paper the best goalie going into the postseason. He had like the most shutouts across the league.
Yeah.
You had multiple 100-point players. I'm pretty sure Kachuk and Gaudreau hit that. Yeah, we deserve more exciting hockey, which is why we can only keep our fingers crossed and hope for a Battle of Alberta round 2. That's what the NHL needs. So let's hope that they can get it done in 7, because I don't see it happening any sooner. We're going to see a very boring series against the Dallas Stars. And I think the Edmonton Oilers have it in the bag. Being a Vegas Golden Knights fan, watching LA Kings fans be this hopeful and cocky after game 1 and then watching their hopes kind of diminish, I'm a big fan. I mean, that 8-2 win, I think Evander Kane had a hat trick, which is just gross to be cheering for him. But hey, I want a Battle of Alberta and I want the Kings out. I mean, do you think the Kings are going to stay afloat at all throughout this?
I mean, I think you go to Campbell this game coming up. So that's going to make or break it for them, in my opinion. Also, I think the Oilers, before game 3 morning skate, they were basically slated to go on the ice at 11:30 to get out at 11:20. And the LA Kings staff were basically holding the nets. You can't have these yet. It's not your time. We're not giving you these nets. You have 10 minutes. I'm sure that probably pissed them off a little bit too. And that's why it was kind of a bunch of a beatdown as it was as well. But I mean, yeah, I don't think the Kings are the only way for the Kings to beat the Oilers is to slow them down offensively. How do you slow them down offensively? You have to get physical with Connor McDavid without taking penalties. Teams have done it in the past postseasons. I don't know if the Kings have the guys to do that. I would so love for them personally to beat the Oilers, but do I see it happening? That's a different story.
This is where Drew Doughty would actually be worthwhile to his team because you need someone on that back end to throw their weight around and make sure that you can, and like you said, even if it means stopping Connor McDavid and taking the penalty and killing it off, like that's going to be your best bet for sure. I think that brings us up to date with all. Oh yeah, obviously the best series of them all, which pretty much could have been a Stanley Cup final, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So glad I too changed my bracket. Fun fact, as you would like to say. I got tipped off from somebody at my work. They said, "Hey, dude, you know you can like go in and change your fucking bracket after one day, like after the playoffs already started." And I was like, "Well, shit." I was like, "Well, I definitely because I had a few brackets and I went in and changed it because I said, my heart wanted the Leafs, but my brain was saying no. I mean, they've been known to blow 3-1 series leads, but do you think they're going to do it again this year? Or do you think they finally figured it out?
I think it goes 7 just to fucking torment Leafs fans again, personally. I could go either which way. I mean, I don't know. There's something about the pressure of playing in Toronto and a clinching game for a round and having home ice and just not coming through. Just, I don't know. It just feels right to continue to see that still. But we still got a ways to go. They're up 2-1. Tampa's gotta win tonight. They want to get there, I feel like. But I think out of all of the series still, I think even aside from Boston, Carolina, I think this one has the length to go 700%.
Awesome. All right, so that brings us up to date. We'll have another episode for you next week, and
well, real quick, one minor note. Well, it's kind of scary. You didn't see it because you were working. So in the Predators Avalanche game, in front of the net, Ryan Johansson had his like stick just at his waist, like normal battling, and it happened to like go through the mask of Kemper and basically like push into his eye or like around his eye.
Oh yeah,
pain.
Did he come back to the game?
So he left the game. He was out in the game. Apparently, the update after the game was it's not that bad, just the swelling around the eye. He's possible for game 4, apparently. So
wow,
could have been a lot worse for what it was, but I think that's probably, if assuming he's okay, that's a huge bullet dodge for the Avalanche because I don't think they would win without Kemper and net. Francouz, however you say his name. Last playoffs, yikes.
Francouz.
Last playoff, yikes, and I don't think he's the one.
So. I mean, they might do it though. They have the 3-game cushion. They might.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like winning this series is done, regardless who's in net. But I think going forward,
right,
if you don't have Kemper, that's the problem.
But I mean, if his eyes swollen up, the size of a softball, you might, just put some ice on it and let him rest it out. See if they can't finish it off without him. I mean,
True.
Got enough firepower. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to that personally. But yeah, that pretty much brings us up to date with all hockey news that we have so far and whatnot, and bringing up to date when it comes to the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Next time we talk to you guys, we'll have a clearer picture as to who's advancing. I think we'll still talk to you before round 2, which is exciting, but we'll have a better picture as to what matchups we might be looking at. We will answer a question or two before we conclude. Question number 1 is from Tim Ward on Twitter. He said he saw on a Facebook post talking about possible landing spots for Panda. So Robin Lehner talking about moving in potentially for the Golden Knights. One being Detroit. If that happens, does the VGK try and package Ned for Lehner and a pick? And if Lehner leaves, who's the best trade partner? So I think that these rumors are spawning a little bit. I didn't have it in our notes to talk about because there's a lot I would like to say. But basically, the owner of the Vegas Golden Knights, Bill Foley, stepped in and said that he's going to be more active and he's going to be louder and his words are going to be known because he feels like this team has lost a bit of their identity. The quote is actually, "This time after all these years, I've got a few specific ideas of things that I believe need to be accomplished. If I'm being very transparent, I'm going to be active, which is interesting because I think a lot of people already thought he had a hand in this, and he's saying I didn't, and I'm going to step forward and try to and piece this team back to where they were year one. And I think a lot of people think that means a potential Fleury reunion. I know a lot of that is fingers crossed and prayers, but in order to do something like that or to get the team back to where they were year one, you're going to have to move Leonard, who seemingly has kind of separated himself both physically and mentally from the team in a lot of ways. So I think that's where a lot of the rumors are coming from. Personally, I think he returns. I think Leonard comes back to the Knights next year after a longer off season, give him time to heal, get his head right in the right place. And I think he comes back, and we see a Thompson Leonard tandem. I don't see him getting moved. But I mean, Detroit could afford it. They need a goalie, a spot like Buffalo, but he's already been to Buffalo. Yeah. A spot like New Jersey could potentially need him. Basically a bottom feeding team, but they'd still know they're doing the Knights a favor, and you'd have to send something with them.
Also got that 8-team no trade clause. So who's on that? Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I think that's everything too. Even for Nedeljkovic, he's 26 compared to 30 for Leonard. Like, younger guy, he had a great season with the Hurricanes. Like, you're gonna have to give up, I think, a good chunk to swap that out. Quite honestly, can the Wings afford it? Absolutely. Stevie Yzerman the guy to say, hey, we'll give you a first-round pick if you take on Leonard and maybe retain some salary or something. He'd probably do it in a heartbeat. That's kind of what he does, and sort of just stockpiling solid picks. But yeah, I think it's hard to see him go somewhere. But then, like, to the Fleury side, like, there's no way that Minnesota can afford them. But again, they're basically getting another $8 million out of their cap hit in terms of that buyout penalty from Suter and Parise next year. So I'm just looking at their roster. On the side note, like, Fiala's like gone, and then pretty much every one of their UFAs is probably gone also, just to fit under the cap. So
yeah, you brought that up a couple episodes back. You said that this is the year that they have to make that push, and they obviously picked up Fleury, which is crazy because they can't re-sign him, and they're alienating Cam Talbot, which is a whole topic we could spend a lot more time on. But definitely more goalie controversy surrounding Marc-Andre Fleury, which he's the nicest dude, most lovable player probably in the NHL, and he's attached to all this drama just simply because teams want to have him and they want to have him around, or I don't know. It's definitely a Hail Mary possibility that I would say Fleury could potentially return to one of his older teams, whether it's the Vegas Golden Knights or the Penguins. Now we're seeing the Penguins with injuries. What does that mean until next year? You don't know. Yep. Goalies are always a big question mark, and as we've seen through the years, they're like a what's the word I'm thinking of? It's like not a kaleidoscope. It's a revolving carousel of goalies. It's a big topic. So, but yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube. We've been doing a lot more on there and being more active. Obviously, we're on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and the Facebook page we're active as well. Anything else you wanted to add here towards the end?
Anyone listening, don't count the Blues out just yet. They got a chance. Is
this you being cautiously optimistic, or are you being biased with this?
Cautiously optimistic.
Fair.
As a Blues fan, pretty much has been forever. So.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go get my Sugar Ray on. I'm probably going to drink some Bud Lights and enjoy myself. So cheers, everybody.
Later, guys.